Welcome to another episode of the Pilot Talk podcast by OSM Aviation with Captain Michelle Treskin, myself, Stein Mjottveit. And on today's episode, also our guest host, Lexi or Alexandra Tatarinov. I hope I said that right.
It sounded okay to me.
We just call her Lexi, the flight instructor.
It's easier.
It's easier.
That's right.
So she's going to be our guest host because this episode is going to be extremely exciting. It's going to be a bit different. Might be a little bit of background noise.
A bit noisy, yeah.
Yeah, but we're going to try and clean it up in the post-production as much as we can. But we have been at the Women in Aviation Conference.
Yay.
In Orlando, Florida.
Disney World.
Yes, exactly.
How cool is that?
Very cool. And we have had the privilege of talking to many aspiring female pilots, many female pilots with a long career behind them.
Yeah.
And in this episode today, we're also going to talk to the founder of the Women in Aviation Conference.
That's special.
Yeah, it's very special. So we have a wide range of guests, shorter interviews.
Yeah.
Also, we're going to mix it up with the hosts. Sometimes it'll be me and Michelle. Sometimes Michelle and Lexi. Sometimes me and Lexi. So
that's right. Yeah.
It's a good mix. And thank you for tuning into this episode. And thank you also to Lexi, we should say, for helping us out with hosting this very unique episode. But the Pilot Talk podcast, once again, it's made to inspire, educate, and entertain you, our beloved listeners who share our passion for flying or simply want to get a peek behind the cockpit door. And in this episode, we believe that you truly will get a mixed, wide perspective on this industry and what it has to offer.
For women.
Yes.
Yay.
Yay.
You are listening to Pilot Talk by OSM Aviation.
Okay, Michelle, we met quite a few students at Women in Aviation Conference, eh?
We did. It was an incredible 3-day event.
Yeah.
I think there was about, I'm just between 6,000 and 10,000 people, I think.
Yeah.
Was it?
It was the 31st event. It's grown quite a bit. And in this first segment, we're going to focus on the student pilots.
That's right.
We had quite a few of them come by, talk to us about their story, where they're at in their journey. Cameron, Ellie, Jenna, Mercedes, Megan, May, the list goes on. It was really interesting to hear about their journey, where they are right now, what's most exciting, and so on and so forth. So hope you guys enjoy this. These are the student pilots at the Women in Aviation Conference.
In Orlando.
Pilot Talk with Stein Mjottveit and Michelle Treskin.
All right, so who do we have here?
Hey, my name is Hui Min Liu, or you can call me Ming if that makes everybody easier. And I'm currently a student pilot, only a few hours in, but I love to be a part of aviation.
Great. Are you studying here in the U.S. or?
Yes, I'm studying here in the U.S. in a local flight school, so working on my private pilot license.
Nice.
And in the meantime, I'm a flight attendant for a major airline as well.
Cool. Yeah, you're all in on aviation these days, huh?
Love this. And I figured that a lot of men love airplanes and love aviation, but then compared to the percentage, female does look a little bit less percentage than men. Mm-hmm. And then, but today we are in a Women Aviation Conference and we are in OSM. I see quite a few female pilots here and make me very inspiring.
It's definitely very inspiring being around so many women with a lot of hours and also just starting out their careers.
Yeah, I love this feeling. I can feel like it's not only men's work. The female can play a big role in there too.
Exactly.
I actually enjoyed that I'm a minority here too. It's kind of nice because it's like you say, it's usually the majority is men. So, yep, I'm outnumbered and I like it.
We should get more females in this field.
Agreed.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So you just started your journey.
Yes.
So you're in the PPL phase right now.
Yes.
Where do you do your training? Is it here in Florida?
I actually do my training in New Jersey area since I live in Jersey City, New Jersey. And obviously Florida is better weather to train. Obviously California, Arizona, all does have better weather. But since I live in New Jersey, it's convenience for me.
Exactly.
But once I finish my private pilot lessons, I may gonna look into different locations to do the rest of the training.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's great.
We have a school in Fort Lauderdale. Just hint, hint.
Yeah, I did heard about it, and that's maybe some part I want to go for since Fort Lauderdale is way better weather in New York.
Yeah.
New York just have a lot of restrictions and weathers and cannot fly, all year long, all day long.
I did my flight training in Florida, and I did it substantially in less time than most people. For example, in Northern Europe, considering the weather.
Yeah, Northern Europe. What's the weather looks like in Northern Europe though?
I'd say pretty much the same as it would be in New York.
Okay, snow too, windy.
Yes. All of the above.
Definitely.
So it's gonna take you a longer time to finish the school.
Exactly. We have an integrated program which takes about 20 months. So as opposed to that, I did my training, which was modular, and I did that in 14 months. So you could say that I did a more integrated modular course.
Yeah. So how about Florida weather? I mean, I don't live here. I'm sure other people know, but for people who doesn't live here, I heard about a lot of weather happening in the morning or afternoon-ish, like raining. So does that affect our flight training at all?
You normally have thunderstorms around 2 p.m., 3 p.m. So you can fly up until then, and then you can fly after that.
Okay. So every day have thunderstorm.
Yeah, pretty much. It's during the season, yes. But the amount of cancellations due to weather is very, very small.
Yeah.
So people just fly in the morning, ground school in the afternoon,
For example.
and
There you
fly
go.
at night.
Yeah.
Okay.
They build up fast and they dissipate fast. So.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. That's cool. So, yeah, what you mentioned that you just started on your aviation journey,
Yes.
and you feel like, all right, there should be more ladies in this profession. But what made you? Do you have any milestones where you can look back and see, all right, this helped influence me towards making this choice?
Yes, yeah, that's actually a very good question because I'm sure people in aviation,
Oh, we have a screaming baby on board.
That's
actually
planes.
it's a girl. I met her, and her mom is a female guard pilot as well. So it's inspiring me how female we can take care of family and a career at the same time.
Exactly.
Because eventually we're gonna reach that point too, right?
Yeah.
So in the beginning, joining the aviation industry was just random, totally random, and want to fly and travel the world. So I became a flight attendant with a major airline. Once I in the airline, I realized that aviation, you can connect the world. People thinking, oh, Europe's so far away from America, or Asia so far away, right? No, it's only 10 hours of flight, 14 hours of flight, or 7-8 hours flight. From here, you're gonna be in Norway. It's
Yeah.
not that far away.
No, it's not.
You go sleep, you wake up, it's another 8 hours, and then you could from America go to Norway.
Yeah.
And you can see a lot of different cultures, meet so many interesting people. In one country, the culture thinking is, it's different, but in other countries, thinking that's very normal. And that gave me very strong, inspiring how aviation changed the world. So then along the way, obviously, I see the people in the flat deck to control the airplane, to see the sunset, sun rays, see the northern lights, see the stars, there, and people push the buttons in the flat deck, and that's cool. That's something I wanted to do. You teach me about how airplane works, what's the lift, what's the thrust, give me theory. That's really inspiring me. And then I say, okay, now I want to become a pilot.
So is that your goal in aviation to work for an airline?
My goal in aviation is right now at the very moment, I actually don't have a specific goal. I couldn't tell hey, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, I want to be something. But I know is that I want to stick with aviation. And I know that after 5 years or 10 years, the opportunity I'm grabbing along the way will have more clear. My vision will be more clear, so I will know what's gonna happen. But right now, I know I want to be in aviation and I want to be a pilot. I want to fly the damn airplane, like those two sitting in front of me.
Cool.
So, how do you want to become pilot? Is because you like airplanes?
Oh, you just flipped the roles. I love it. Yeah, okay.
We have a new guest host.
I don't know if our listeners are going to want to listen to this. I gave this story on a former episode, so we've gone through it. But for me, in short, it was a long journey. So it kind of happened successively. My dad's cousin worked for an airline, joined him for work a couple of days, thought it was cool, and down that path we went. That's basically it. Yeah. And what about you, Lexi?
For me, pretty much my parents brought me up as a pilot, so I'm not quite sure I had any say in it at any point, but it's a great thing that I ended up loving it.
Is our parents also pilot?
No, but they've both worked in the travel industry and for airlines, so it's sort of a legacy thing.
How many Asian female pilots have you been seeing in here in this conference?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. I don't know.
What's the percentage?
Maybe 5 to 10%, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna have more.
There you go.
Great.
Get those numbers up.
That's a great outlook to have.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you guys for having me in here. Yeah, I hope my story can inspire other more female pilots.
I think it will.
I'm sure you will.
Thank you guys.
Great. Thank you.
Pilot Talk with Stein Mjotvid and Michelle Treskin.
Okay. Welcome to the Pilot Talk podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Who do we have in front of us?
My name is Mercedes St. George. I'm a student at Jacksonville University in their Aviation and Flight Operations program.
Cool.
Great. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So, yeah, keep going.
Yeah, so I was born in Springfield, Virginia, right outside of D.C., and for the longest time, I knew that I wanted to do something in aviation, but I didn't really know that. I didn't know many women pilots, so I didn't really think that that was an option for me. I was looking more for things on the ground, and then finally, I really started talking with other women, and I figured out that it is a possibility. So finding JU was a great opportunity for me.
Nice. And since then, you've started your journey in aviation, and where has that led you to today? What are you doing these days?
So I have gone through my private and my instrument rating at Jacksonville, and I'm now working on my commercial multi in the Piper Seminole.
Oh, nice. The
Yes.
Piper
Yes.
Seminole.
Yes, I am on lesson 5 right now, so just starting out, but exciting.
That's cool. What's the biggest differences? I'm sure there's some of our listeners that haven't come to that stage of their training yet. I'd be curious to know, what's the biggest part in transitioning from the single engine to the multi-engine?
So definitely you forget there's 2. You're so used to just having one and doing everything just for one, but now you have to do it twice.
Yeah.
So that's definitely been one thing that's been a transition. Landing gear up and down. Can't forget that.
No,
that's been fun.
definitely not.
Yeah.
That's important. And have you started getting into the engine failure part of the training yet?
I have not yet.
Like
few more
So
lessons.
far we've been doing slow flight installs, fun stuff like that.
Nice.
Intros and grounds, lots of grounds, learning the systems. I have a propeller that's now adjustable, so learning that's also another battle.
Yeah. Getting it to sync so it doesn't go
Yeah.
wrong.
Yes.
There you go. Yeah.
We've all been there.
Yeah. Alrighty. What about moving forward?
Moving forward, what is my goal?
What kind of plans do you have for the future?
So big plans in the future. My dream is to be a captain for United Airlines. My mom works for United. I love that company. I did an internship with them. Definitely a big United girl. Shout out United. And after I get my commercial multi, move on to single, and then I'd like to get my CFI and build my hours. Not sure where I'd like to work yet as CFI, but
You should come to
near future.
OSM Aviation Academy in Florida.
Absolutely.
There
I
you
would like
go.
to stay in Florida. So
Yeah,
for
nice.
sure.
It's nice flying year round. The weather's just amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Do you have any? So some of the listeners that tune into this podcast. Oh yeah, you were one of the listeners as well, right?
I was. Yes.
Oh, so cool.
Awesome.
And but some of the others that are listening, they might be thinking, okay, so how do I get started? How do I do this? You said you met some people that inspired you. Do you have any other advice for someone who's eager to get going? But
Advice. Yes. Okay. So definitely, it's not as easy as you think. So definitely be prepared for it and be ready to do a lot of hard work along the way. It's not easy. And once you have that mindset that you really, really want it, you'll succeed. I know for my instrument rating, the second half of it, it was a lot of work, but it's very well worth it once you actually complete it. So
Nice.
I'm excited for the rest.
all right, cool. Thanks for being on the show, Mercedes.
Thank you. I
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much.
Yeah, it was cool talking to you.
Pilot Talk. Available on iTunes, Spotify, or osmaviation.com/podcast.
Okay, welcome to our newest guest. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Megan Carlson. I'm 17 years old, a senior in high school, and a student pilot at the moment. So I live in Denver, Colorado.
Oh, nice. Nice. Yeah, we were just talking a little bit before we sat down, going out to Denver in a few days. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, definitely. It's really cool.
Yeah? And what made you make the trip from Denver out here to Women in Aviation?
I wanted to network, introduce myself to a ton of different companies and people, and try to get a strong base. So,
Nice. Is this the first time you go to the conference?
no, I came last year as well as to Long Beach.
Oh, nice.
So.
Yeah, many people have said that it's a really great place for networking and making new contacts. And,
Definitely strong relationships too. That's the key in aviation.
That's really
so.
important.
Oh yeah.
yeah, and at this point, since you've been here several times, I'm sure you meet some of the same people again, or
Yeah, a few, and I've actually met up with a few people that I've lost contact with over the years. Some people from the EAA and stuff that used to be in my chapter that I've been able to reconnect with here. So,
Nice.
Amazing.
That's cool.
yeah, very cool.
So what's the status on your training right now? What are you doing these days?
I'm a student pilot. I have been flying for about 3 years now. Couldn't get my solo until I was 16. Couldn't get my private until I was 17. So it was just a waiting game. But right now I have to take my written and then do my check ride, and then I have my private. So soloed on my 16th birthday. I wanted to get everything done. So
Yeah, you got
That's dedication.
Yeah, you got an early start.
oh, definitely. I have a family of aviation too. My grandfather, my uncle, everybody was part of an aviation, and so I know the career. I know what it's like being in an aviation
The
family.
pros and cons.
Exactly.
You know what you're getting yourself into.
Yes. I know the schedule.
Yeah.
It was funny. As a kid, I never knew when Christmas fell. It was always when Dad was home.
So that's just how things are.
Yep.
But it's nice to be able to be pragmatic like that. Oh, we'll just move Christmas a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's nice.
Just
We
a
had our
date.
own holidays.
Yeah, that's cool. so your training journey so far, like what's your favorite parts? What's the parts you enjoy the most? What are the things you find the most challenging?
I'd have to say night flying. That's my favorite right now. Going up at night and seeing all the lights and everything. And
It's beautiful.
oh, it's gorgeous. And yeah, well, flying during the day, it's nice too, but night flying is a whole different experience.
Agreed.
By far my favorite.
Nice. And I mean, since you come from an aviation family, maybe there are no challenges.
I just keep pushing through, man.
Amazing.
I mean, this is kind of a leading question, but you think obviously that having an aviation family like that for several generations must have been a strength for you to draw upon, right?
A little bit, yeah. I kind of wanted to go my own way. My mom and my dad were both flight attendants for United. And so I'm the first female in my family to want to become a pilot.
Nice.
And so I want to go to the commercial airlines and be on the other side of the cockpit door.
Great.
That's cool. I think Lexi, she works as a flight instructor for us in Norway, as you know. Mm-hmm. And I think it's so cool and so important with voices like yours to talk about your journeys and, inspire other ladies to take up this profession and start studying to become a pilot.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So what kind of tips do you have for people who are looking into the industry?
I'd say be a part of everything and anything that you can get your hands on. Join it, be in that club, join that team, make connections with people.
That's so important.
Oh yeah.
Really good advice.
Thank you.
Alrighty. So, is it? Do you have something you want to add towards the end, like to some of the listeners out there? What's no?
Nope.
All right. We'll wrap it up. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Alrighty.
Awesome.
Pilot Talk with Stein Mjotvid and Michelle Treskin.
Okay, we have a new guest. Welcome to the Pilot Talk podcast, Diana.
Hi guys.
All right, how you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks.
Good, excellent.
Wow. What brought you to the Women in Aviation conference this year?
So I'm a student pilot. I recently started. I've only got like 26 flight hours now, and I just wanted to see a bit more about like all the different companies that have aviation opportunities and different types of things that maybe I hadn't thought of, like seeing the aircraft, like the cargo carriers and that kind of stuff as well.
Oh, that's so cool. So you just started out. Everything is new and exciting.
Exactly.
Right on. So what made you push yourself or choose that career of aviation?
Yeah, so I've come into it from like a bit of a long stretch. I used to be a banker. My degree is in economics, and I was just like, you know what? I don't want to be sitting here like in a cubicle or doing something boring that I don't like the rest of my life. So that's what pushed me into aviation, and I just started. So yeah.
All right. Do you know a lot of people in aviation, or do you have any parents or?
No, not that
relatives?
many, because we have a family friend who flies for Republic, but other than that, not really.
All right.
But getting to meet a lot of the ladies at this conference has been really inspiring.
That's so cool.
Oh, that's
so
exciting,
complete
isn't it?
career change, just from banker to pilot. Let's go.
Yep.
Let's do it. That's cool.
What a big difference, eh?
Yeah. So what's been the most enjoyable? What's been the most challenging so far?
Yeah, so the most enjoyable part, I guess, just being up in the air, like on a clear day, like when there's not a lot of turbulence and you're just kind of like seeing everything, getting to like sit back and kind of enjoy is really great. But the most challenging part is, I guess, just trying to master all the skills that I'm learning and like process all the new information, like reading the charts while doing the radio calls and all that stuff. So that's probably really the most challenging.
Right. And where do you see yourself in 10 years?
In 10 years, I really like international travel and like seeing the world. So hopefully I'll be with one of the larger airlines, just getting a lot of trips in.
That's cool.
All right.
Yeah.
And where are you currently doing your training?
So I'm training at Thrust Flight in Addison Airport, but you guys may know it's near DFW and like Dallas Love Field, so it's in that area.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Nice. Weather's nice there all the time, isn't it? Well, it's windy sometimes. But,
Yeah, the spring still has its challenges. I've had a couple of like no-fly days, like with high winds or a little bit of spring rain.
Yeah, it's a little bit more vulnerable in the beginning too, right? And then you start raising your minimums, and weather becomes less of a factor.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's great. So are you promoting yourself? Like, are you all your friends saying, "Listen, this is a good job. We should get more women in aviation for sure."
I haven't gotten to that point yet because I haven't gotten to the point where I'm like in the career pipeline and like seeing all of that. But I'm sure once I'm there and I'll be like, "Hey guys, this is what it's all about," and be able to pass that on a bit more.
Do you have any sisters?
Oh no, just a younger brother, and he's really into computers, so I can't say like, "Oh, don't study technology." And that's also really good. So.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's a growth industry for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what do you think, now you've met many potential employers, has that shifted your perspective at all, opened your eyes to some new opportunities? Like what's been the coolest thing you've seen so far, or what caught your eye?
Oh, caught my eye. I haven't talked. I just got to. This is probably about like halfway through the convention floor, so I've seen maybe half of them. I'm not sure yet. So, but mostly just all the different locations and a lot of like the smaller regional carriers. Maybe I hadn't heard of. Those are really cool.
And for our future, for our listeners right now, what would be the recommendation or your thoughts on to promote aviation amongst your peers? What are your recommendations or things that would be good to hear from you?
So one thing that I was really surprised by was just how many people have come into aviation that didn't necessarily start out there.
Right.
So I thought I was kind of like a black sheep alone in this. just like, oh, I switched, huge from banking all the way over to aviation. I thought I was like one of the only ones. But a lot of the other ladies here have similar stories. Like they're in a career, maybe they just got all the way and they're like, okay, I want to change. So it's never too late to change.
Right.
Because I know, like, when I was first starting out, I thought everyone was like, oh, I want to be a pilot since I was like a small kid, and like everyone was like that. But it's not always like that. So.
Good tip. Good tip. Absolutely.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, it was a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks for doing this short interview. Oh, we
I
have
was going to say, so you were saying the best thing that probably I've seen so far. So it hasn't actually even been at the booth, but just all the other ladies that I've met, like they're complete treasures. So anyone who's listening to this, maybe if they're a woman who's interested in aviation, I highly recommend going to the conference. Like everyone that you meet is going to be really great. There'll be a connection in your future, just networking, and it'll be awesome.
Very good.
Nice.
Very good.
Fantastic
Absolutely.
tip to end it off there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen, we want to wish you all the very best.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks,
guys.
That's it.
Pilot Talk with Stein Mjotvid and Michelle Treskin.
Okay, so who is our next guest on the podcast? Tell us a little bit.
I'm Jenna McPhee, and I'm from West Seattle in Washington. So
Nice to meet you, Jenna.
Nice to meet you guys.
Welcome.
And so how old are you?
I'm 19 right now.
Okay. And what's your current situation when it comes to flying and aviation?
I'm working towards my private pilot license at Central Washington University.
Nice.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Which part are you at right now?
I'm halfway through stage 2. Yeah, so I'm doing cross countries and all of that.
That's nice.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, to get go and grab that $100 hamburger. Do they still call it that?
Well, we did.
Yeah.
Not sure if they still do.
Yeah. It was a term for like taking a plane to go have lunch somewhere, making it more expensive.
Yeah,
but
of course.
if you're a pilot in training, you just do that all the time.
You throw money away.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty cool. So, what's your favorite cross-country experience so far?
Well, I recently just did a cross country and I got to talk to a tower for the first time, and I thought that was an amazing experience and something that was super fun because we don't have a tower where we fly out of.
Uncontrolled?
Yeah, we're uncontrolled. And so that was a really good experience, and I'm glad I got that now.
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah.
So after the cross country phase, what's is that check ride preparation or skill test prep in the next stage?
Yeah, I'm actually taking my FAA written in 2 weeks.
All right.
So I'm preparing for that, and then after that, I'll be doing my check ride.
Nice.
Exciting times.
Yeah, stressful.
Yeah. That's the thing. There's always lots to study, isn't it?
Yeah, there's always more you can study.
Yeah. Does it ever end, Lexi?
Never.
No?
Never. You're never a finished pilot.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
So what are your plans after? Are you doing your instrument rating?
Yeah, so after the private, we're going to be doing our instrument rating and then commercial after that.
Okay, cool. So do you have any kind of plans for the career?
That's why I'm here. I'm looking into a bunch of different airlines.
Exciting.
And actually being here, private industry has really caught my eye a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of booths here about that. So that's something I'm definitely going to look into.
Great.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, how out of the private companies here, how many have you been talking to today?
Around like 3 or 4 so far. Yeah.
And by private, that's like business jet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. So what does an airline or a private jet company have to do to be competitive today to attract young pilots, in your opinion?
Well, what I find really appealing is just the days that they have on and off, and whether or not they get back to the home at night. And so I find that appealing. I mean, I wouldn't mind staying and going anywhere because I do want to travel, and that is why a big influence in my decision to become a pilot is traveling and going places. And so destination about where they fly out of and where they fly to is a big decider.
Yeah. So schedule and base.
Yeah.
Basically, and being able to come back.
Yeah.
In the evenings. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have any advice for someone who's looking to maybe get into aviation?
I mean, it's kind of, if you're looking to get into it, you just kind of got to go for it right away. It's really competitive, especially where I signed up, I had to do it really early. And so I was still kind of just deciding, like, if I wanted to do this. But when I was, like, unsure, I just had to send the application away. Like,
sometimes you just got to grab a chance.
I'm so glad I did.
Great.
Nice. Well, thank you for your time.
Yeah,
it was
thank
a
you so
pleasure.
much.
Yeah, it's nice to have this short interview with you.
Yeah, thank you.
So, thanks.
Pilot Talk. Everything you need to know about being a pilot.
Okay, so who do we have in front of us?
Ellie Williams.
Nice to meet you.
You too. I am from Mercer Island, Washington. It's a small town in between Seattle and Bellevue, so it's like right in between the two big cities in that area. I went to Mercer Island High School. I'm 19 years old. I am a private pilot working on my instrument rating right now.
Wonderful. So a lot of pattern A, pattern B. Do they still do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm going to Central Washington University.
Oh, nice. So in that phase of training that you're in right now, what's the most fun? What's the most challenging?
I'd say the most challenging would definitely be like spatial disorientation. I miss looking outside, but I kind of have to tell myself, just push through it. It's a rating that I want to get. I'm still having fun at the same time. I feel like it's a lot more challenging.
It's a different kind of challenge.
It is a different kind of challenging, definitely, from private year, because you're utilizing the same skills that you learn, but you're in like a greater volume.
Yeah, you're just adding on to the knowledge.
That's cool. So, what's your favorite IFR maneuver right now? It's like, is it air work, approaches? What do you do the most of?
I really like doing ILS approaches. I try to go around, because we have one in Yakima that's like the city closest to Ellensburg that we always go and do. So you kind of get used to it and you like memorize the approach, which isn't really helpful. So we go around to like Moses Lake, Pasco, and I think I like ILS approaches the best.
Nice. You guys have and you would agree with me here, Lexi, you've flown in the U.S. as well. The infrastructure here is just amazing.
Yeah.
There's so many airports to choose from, and I think...
Approaches everywhere.
Yeah.
The amount of nav aids here compared to Europe is very high.
Really?
Yep.
Didn't know that.
And you have so many approaches as well. You're way ahead of us on GPS and RMP approaches. So.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's right now it's starting to catch up. Like we're starting to get the LPV approaches and that kind of stuff. So, well, we're getting there.
We're getting there.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, looking forward, like what would you like your career to be moving ahead?
I would really like to fly for the airlines. I think last year I was a little unsure and I was saying like, oh, I'll figure it out. Like I have a long time to figure it out. But based off of everything that I've seen, like all the different pathways that I could take, I think the airlines is the best for me. I just want to start flying as soon as possible. I don't know, to build my hours if I want to be a CFI or not. I think that's the biggest thing that I don't really know. I'm definitely going to the airlines, though.
Yeah.
Do you have a specific airline in mind?
Not yet, no.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And we'll do a clarification because in Europe, CFI means Chief Flight Instructor. So here in the U.S., it's Certified Flight Instructor, right? So it's a little difference there, but yeah.
So it would be a flight instructor, FI, in European.
Yeah, that's it. So, okay. So what other paths? Because now when you graduate, you'll have a bachelor's degree, I assume?
Yeah.
And that's going to bring down the hour requirement to 1,000 hours, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty big chunk.
Yeah, I'm planning on getting my restricted ATP at Central Washington. And then what a lot of people do is they end up being flight instructors for the school because they're more likely to get hired since they went to the school. But the problem with that is that flight instructors at my school right now don't get paid more for being a CFII versus a CFI, so it's like not a big motivation to even flight instruct there. Another opportunity that I have is to do like island hopping in Hawaii and building my hours that way. Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
It's very appealing.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. Well, that's cool. So apart from those two tracks, are there any other common ways that people plan to build their hours and stuff? The
one I can think of off the top of my head is sounds kind of stupid, but there's a little like FedEx plane that flies into the Ellensburg airport like every Monday. That's the way to build hours.
That's cool.
Yeah, but most people, if not all, end up being a CFI for the school. Yeah.
I think that's
or go to the military.
Yeah.
And do it that way.
I heard many say too that the CFI track's a faster way to build hours than some, you know,
it is.
compared to some other types of flying. So if you have a lot of students, of course. But, well, that's cool. Well, thanks for sharing, coming on the
Thank you so
podcast.
much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it
Nice
was a
meeting you.
pleasure.
You too.
Okay, so who do we have in front of us today?
My name is Cameron, and I'm 20, and I'm from Ellensburg, Washington.
Welcome to the Pilot Talk podcast, Cameron.
Welcome.
It's nice to have you here.
Thank you.
And what brought you to the conference today?
This is my first time attending the conference. I came with my university's chapter. We have been fundraising the entire year, selling like donuts and like making food for all these restaurants.
That's
and
amazing.
so we could come, and it's been an awesome experience so far. I'm really excited.
Nice. All the hard work paid off.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, that's cool.
So how long have you been in training?
I'm about a year and a half in. I'm a sophomore at Central, and I am in the middle of my instrument rating.
Wow.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. How do you find the instrument part of the training? What's the biggest challenge from your perspective?
I think that the biggest challenge is, like, last year you can obviously look outside, and then this year, like my first stage and instrument, you kind of get disoriented, and like the natural reaction is to look outside, and you want to look, but you can't. There's no peeking.
No peeking.
It's a funny transition. It goes from the instructor saying, look outside all the time, to like, nope, no more. Yeah.
I think the weirdest thing is when like you're on final and you finally get to pull that hood off. It's so bright, it like hits your eyes, and you're like, whoa. Yeah, it's funny.
Cool. So, yeah, what made you, like, why were you drawn to the aviation industry, and like what enticed you to want to become a pilot in the first place?
Nobody in my family is in the aviation industry, and when I was in high school, I went on this trip with all my best friends, and we kind of like popped around Europe for a few weeks, and I just like came back and I was like, I definitely want to travel for the rest of my life. And that was just like the outlet for me. Like I knew like that's what I want to do. And so I kind of started doing some discovery flights like with a friend, and like my parents had like gotten me like a lesson, and I was like, this is it. Like this is definitely what I want to do. And it's been awesome. I really enjoy it.
Nice.
Great. Is that what you want to do? Fly long haul?
I think so. Yeah, I don't really know yet. Keeping my options open.
That's great.
I love that, popping around Europe for a few weeks. It sounds so casual, but that must have been a really cool
It was
trip.
a blast, yeah.
So, speaking of trips, like the rest of the journey in front of you, in the perfect world, how does that journey look like for you? Or maybe hard to answer, but
Yeah, I think that perfect journey would just be like exposing myself to as many places in the world that I can see in my years of like being able to travel.
yeah, that's cool. What's on the top of your list right now?
Gosh, I don't know. I've always really wanted to see Fiji. I think Fiji would be awesome.
It looks nice. Have you been?
No, never.
Oh,
One day.
yeah. Alrighty. So I think just to wrap up this short interview, what would you say to others who are out there considering getting into aviation, becoming a pilot? Like, do you have any motivating words or thoughts on that topic?
I would definitely say that if you kind of think that that might be a possibility for you, to definitely reach out to like a local airport, see if there's a discovery flight that you can do. Dipping your toes in the water was like what really pushed me to like actually pursue this career, and just like that first flight in a small plane, like that could really make it or break it for you.
Nice. Some good advice to
Yeah,
finish it off.
definitely.
All right. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
Pilot Talk with Stein Mjotvid and Michelle Treskin.
So we didn't only have student pilots come by our booth. It was a popular booth, we gave away a stand-up paddleboard
That's
at the
right.
event.
Yeah.
So
An aviation event, and we have a stand-up paddleboard as a giveaway.
This was your idea. I really like it because pilots are usually very outdoorsy.
That's right.
So and you guys can check out the video from the giveaway on our Instagram page. But we also had a very important guest stop by. We had the founder of the Women in Aviation Conference.
A pioneer.
Dr. Peggy Chabrian. And this was a very interesting talk. It was so cool to hear about why she started the conference and how it's grown.
Incredible.
The first one, it was 150 people to the one that we're at now. It's 6,000 plus.
Unbelievable. And growing.
So it's very, very cool. So we hope you guys enjoy this interview with Dr. Peggy Chabrian. Enjoy.
Pilot Talk. Everything you need to know about being a pilot.
Okay, so we just got a pretty special guest showing up at our booth here. We've got Dr. Peggy Chabrian, the founder of the Women in Aviation Conference. Very nice to have you, Peggy.
Thank you for inviting me.
And we would love to hear about your journey, about founding this conference, and what happened since then, how it's been growing. And so could you tell us a little bit more?
Sure. Back in the middle 1980s, I was involved as a faculty member first at the Daytona Beach campus of Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University and for 2 years. And then I went to their Prescott, Arizona campus 1988. And back in that time frame, the number of women students on the campuses was only about 4%. And even fewer women on the faculty or administrators. And part of my responsibilities as the dean at the time was to not only oversee some of the academic areas, but also to put on and organize some different seminars and conferences and things. So we started doing flight instructor refresher clinics the first year and some other safety things. But in looking towards the second academic year I was there and looking at the calendar and getting to March, thinking March, Women's History Month, what would be nice? Maybe we ought to get some women in the aviation industry to come, spend a day, put on a one-day event, some students and others from the local community to come in and hear about what women are doing in aviation. So we advertised it in that first conference. The first Women in Aviation Conference was in Prescott, Arizona in March 1990 with about 150 people. Now the speakers that year included a WASP, one of the women who flew in World War II, Gina Yeager, who had just a couple years before flown around the world nonstop in the Voyager with Dick Rutan. We had Dr. Shannon Lucid, an astronaut, and some others, including Barbara Barrett, who will be speaking tomorrow morning, is now the Secretary of the Air Force. So kind of a great combination.
Pretty nice lineup.
For that first conference for 150 people. That summer, as it happened, I accepted a position at Parks College of St. Louis University, and similar situation. It was all aviation and engineering, not a lot of women students. And we thought, well, that conference worked pretty good with Embry-Riddle. Maybe we'll hold one at Parks. So the second annual Women in Aviation Conference held in St. Louis. And we continued to hold through Parks College this conference for 5 years. And now we're up to about 600 people. Starting to have exhibitors, and some people saying, well, it's nice coming to this conference once a year, but how do I join the organization? That was a good question because there wasn't an organization, but that was kind of the impetus to look at, with the interest that was growing through the conference. And Women in Aviation has always included people from all areas of aviation, be it the airlines, general aviation, corporate, all the various areas of aviation, and whether it's pilots, A&Ps, or traffic controllers, it was this mix. And there really wasn't another organization like that out there. So we founded, and in December 1994, announced at the March 1995 conference, and started a scholarship program soon after that. The following year, started a chapter program, and I'm going to jump ahead now. Last year was our 30th annual conference in Long Beach, California. We had over 4,500 people.
Wow.
The organization we now, and we're here at Disney in Orlando for the 31st conference, but there's over 15,000 members in the organization. There'll be about 4,500 people here again this week. We've given over $13 million in scholarships over the 20-some years of scholarships being awarded. So it's just been an amazing journey, and I may have started it, but there's been an awful lot of people who've been, part of this organization. Obviously, the members, staff, board members over the years. It's just been wonderful to watch it grow. So last year was 30 conferences, and as getting ready for this year's conference, year was coming to an end. I said, well, this has been a good career, if you will, and it just seemed everything was going well, and I wanted to leave, if you will, as things were good, and now I get to come this year and be like an attendee and get to actually enjoy some of the seminars. I don't have to run and take care of the audio-visual problem or a speaker didn't show up or whatever. So this is great.
It's like retirement.
Yeah, at least the full-time, all the time.
The full-time
I'll still probably be involved, whether it's here or another aviation university or something else. But yes.
I think that's fantastic. You just looked at it. There's not enough girls here. I got to do something about it.
Yeah. But I will add, and I want to make sure I add this, even though the organization has the name Women in Aviation, we have always, from the very beginning, so that very first conference, we've always had a percentage of men who attend the conference, who are members. At that first conference, it was about 10%. We now have about 20% of our members and conference attendees who are men, and say, hey, it's aviation. We want to support anyone who wants to be in aviation, men or women. It doesn't matter. We particularly want to encourage ladies and girls. We started a program 5 years ago now called Girls in Aviation Day. We just had the 5th one last October. So all around the world on the same day, we had our numbers totaled over 20,000 in at 131 locations in, 12 or 13 countries, I'm trying to remember, introduced to aviation by our chapters.
Wow.
That's fantastic work. I'm very impressed by what you guys have achieved.
And we're glad that OSM Academy, Aviation Academy is here at the conference this year.
Yeah.
We're glad to be here.
Yeah, and I feel pretty privileged to be one of those 20% of guys that gets to be here and witness this, because there's so many interesting, talented people that we've met here. It's my first year here, and it's just been great. So
wonderful.
It's amazing. So how many countries do we have chapters in?
We have chapters right now in 34, 35 countries.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is the Scandinavian countries part of that?
I'm trying to remember. I believe there's one in Norway and in Belgium. That's considered maybe more Europe. I guess.
Northern Europe.
Okay.
Nice. Is that something you are engaged in?
I was back when I lived in the States, but now less so.
Gotcha.
But there's always time to start a new chapter.
Exactly.
There you go. I think
exactly.
So when I come back next year, I want to hear all about the new chapter. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
we'll make a date for that.
All right.
That's fantastic, Peggy. Thank you so much for sitting down and having a chat with us.
Amazing to hear your story.
It was really inspiring to hear about your journey, and thanks for sharing.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Pilot Talk, available on iTunes, Spotify, or osmaviation.com/podcast.
So we also had some quite experienced pilots come by our booth and agreeing to sit down and do a short interview.
Yeah.
And I know that, one of your favorites was a helicopter test pilot on the Black Hawk.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris. And you guys...
U.S. Army.
Yeah.
Incredible woman. She's a test pilot on a Black Hawk. And it was a really great conversation.
Yeah. And you guys really connected too, because you have a similar background.
We have a similar background.
Both been test pilots. I know how much you like flying helicopters.
Yeah, I do. It's so refreshing being under a rotor.
Yeah. I saw your eyes light up when she came by to talk. So that was a really special guest.
Great person.
Yeah. And we also have Christine in the next segment. She flies the A320 for Frontier. And she has also a very impressive track record. She's flown so many airplanes throughout her career, CRJ, the Dash, and so on and so forth.
Incredible career.
So
she's just starting.
Yeah. And we hope you guys enjoy this. It was a really enjoyable segment for us.
And we do apologize for any background noise, because don't forget, we were live when we did this. So we do apologize to our listeners if there is a little bit of noise.
Yeah. It makes it feel a little bit more alive, though.
I like it. I like it. It makes it like we're there.
You can hear that we're at an event.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That it's boiling with people.
Boiling.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Pilot Talk. Everything you need to know about being a pilot.
All right, we have a great pleasure again this afternoon to have Chief Warrant Officer Sovchak. Chief Warrant Officer 4, I guess, Sovchak, from the U.S. Army. She's currently a helicopter pilot, Black Hawk, if I recall correctly. Yep.
Yes.
And extraordinaire, I must say.
I like to think so.
Welcome to the show. This is it's a privilege for me because also I used to fly choppers as well, so I'm really, really excited. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm born and raised in New Jersey. I'm in the Army National Guard for 25 years. I started out as an aircraft mechanic working on Cobras and Hueys with all the Vietnam-era mechanics, which was an incredible experience.
Wow.
Eventually, I moved on to the 58s, Apaches, and the Black Hawks, who are the newer advanced airframes. And then one day, when I was the acting first sergeant of an air cav unit, one of the only women in that particular field, I decided I wanted to become a pilot. So at that time, I put my request in. I made it through the board, and I am now a maintenance test pilot for UH-60s, and I have completed 3 different deployments, 2 combat, 1 peacekeeping, and I just keep meeting more and more extraordinary people in this field, and I'm very blessed to have that.
And you look like you're 25 years old for that.
I'll take that.
So was so you started as a mechanic?
That's correct.
And then you went to as a pilot?
That's correct.
How was the transition for you as a woman?
It was easier than I expected.
Okay.
But there were different challenges.
Yeah. What would you say was the most difficult one, you think?
Just learning how to fly.
Okay.
yeah. Just getting inside, trying to get out of my own head and overthinking everything. It's one of those things where no matter how many times someone tries to pat you on the back, you're not going to do any better because you feel that you should be equal to or better because everyone keeps telling you that as a woman. You need to try harder. But when I finally calmed down and just looked at the group of friends that I had, which were all men at that time because there's only 3. That's just how it is. Out of 52 people in my flight class, there was only 3 women, and I was in a section by myself, so I was able to integrate myself with the men, and having that maintenance background and able to talk about the aircraft at an expert level, I feel kind of broke my way into their group because they felt more comfortable. We had that one thing in common was the aircraft, and being able to be that expertise kind of made myself, I think, validated in their eyes.
It can be very difficult going into a group like that if you don't have sort of something to build up on.
Exactly, and having them come to me and ask questions and be wanting my advice on how to learn really built that friendship, which I still have to this day. You're talking 13, 14 years later, and I still go to their house. We have barbecues. I watch their kids grow up, and it's never stopped.
Wow. Oh, definitely having a background in maintenance definitely helps you go to the next level as a test pilot.
That's correct.
For sure. You must be definitely a good pilot anyways to be a test pilot, right?
It definitely made us a better pilot. When I was preparing to go to the course, one of the test pilots came down and sat with me, and he says, this course is going to make you better because you have your flight rules. We have an ATM, Air Crew Training Manual, that explains how you're supposed to do a procedure and what the tolerance is, plus or minus so many feet or inches or whatever.
Right, yeah.
And as a test pilot, it gets very narrow. Everything has to be super precise. So over time of doing a maneuver, you have to become more and more precise, which I feel has made me a better pilot in the long run. So it's not that I was a great pilot that became a test pilot. The test pilot made me a better pilot.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. I get that. Yeah, absolutely. Do you, what would be if someone would want to follow your footsteps, and what would be the best tip you could give to the people that would like to follow you, or at least for a woman?
Or someone getting into aviation in general.
First, I say go guard, because I feel that was the best step for me, because I am able to build on a family, which helps you have that mentorship over time and grow as a better pilot. But definitely do it, because the only thing stopping you at that point is yourself.
Right.
So.
Right. But for us, if we look at the education, or which branch should they go if they want to follow your footsteps?
In the Army National Guard, we have in many states, such as New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Florida, there are free education if you are a National Guard member.
Yeah.
So that's one of the best benefits. You also have other states where you can use the GI Bill that continues with those benefits outside that, which also includes flight training. After you've completed your private pilot license, you get your instrument rating, multi-engine through programs like that is paid for. Plus your A&P. I received my A&P rating, and it was all paid for by the Guard, which was amazing. But going Guard, they pay for your college. They pay for college. They pay for flight school. They pay for all of your advanced training on top of that.
Wow.
So you can also receive. I received my instrument flight rotorcraft with instrument rating.
Yep.
After flight school, all because of the Guard.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
So where would you see yourself in 5 years from now?
5 years from now. Hopefully retiring, because that'll give me 30 years in the military.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe picking up a medevac job. My last deployment was as a medevac pilot, and
Nice.
I found great value in that.
You enjoyed that?
I did, but if I do stay in for another 5 years, then hopefully doing the same thing I'm doing now, flying Mike model Black Hawks and doing medevac missions and helping people.
Extractions and insertions and
Yeah, in the air assault we did
right, yeah.
insertions, extractions. We also do fries and spies.
Yeah.
We work with our Task Force 1 in New Jersey, with Homeland Security. When we had Superstorm Sandy hit New Jersey, we were flying aircraft with the rescue hoist, looking to save people. We had individuals on the back of the aircraft with video cameras searching for areas of high flood or people in distress, so we could. And I was the one flying the aircraft, so I feel like I helped my.
It's valuable work.
I did valuable work in New Jersey, helping people when there's flooding in Texas, flooding in Tennessee. A few years back, New Jersey launched their helicopters with their rescue hoist to fly out there with medics in the back to help individuals all across the country. So the Guard does more than what's it called, deploy, but we take care of the United States. We take care of our neighbors, which is an incredible opportunity for people.
Good for you. Well, thank you so much for your service, that's for sure.
I appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Do you have any other questions?
No, I think all my questions have been answered.
Well, listen, we want to wish you every best for the future. And again, thank you so much for your service. I think it's extraordinary what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining the podcast.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, so who do we have on our podcast now?
Christine Becerra. I work for Frontier Airlines. I'm an Airbus 320 captain.
Lovely to meet you.
Thank you.
So tell us a bit about your story. How did you get into aviation?
I was going to be 18 years old, graduating high school, born and raised in California, seeing the airplanes fly overhead, busy airspace, and I just took a flight lesson when I was 18 years old in Van Nuys, California.
That's amazing.
And it started from there. It took me a long time to get to the point where I wanted to get to. I wasn't sure which route I wanted to take, but 4 airlines later, I am now where I call home.
Great. So you didn't have anyone in the family who would have been into aviation?
I did not, and I was trying to go the military route, but at the time, early 80s, I was told that they weren't putting women through the flight training, so I went the private route. C-130 was my favorite airplane. I wanted to fly it. That's my one and only regret in aviation. Yeah, I've never been able to fly it.
Cool. I lived in California for a couple of years, 2.5 years. I love flying out there. Did you do some of your training out there?
I did.
Yeah.
I was flying out of Van Nuys, doing a lot of mountain flying over Gorman Pass and a lot of the Los Angeles airspace. But I finished off my training in Colorado.
Oh, there you go.
Mile High City, doing a lot of high altitude stuff.
Must have been a really good experience.
It is. There's a big difference. Flying mountains at sea level versus mountains at high altitude. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Do you have any sort of advice that you would give to people who are looking to get into aviation now?
Yes. Back in the day, there was a big failure rate. Now it's the greatest opportunity. It's, equality's out there. There is nothing, no barriers. If you set your mind to do it, it's achievable. Set some goals, reach. those goals, and there's no better time to get into aviation.
Agreed.
That's cool. What you said you fly the Airbus A320 now. Is that your favorite aircraft to fly, or have you had any other favorites on the way?
I've had a few. I flew the CRJ, the 279. I flew the Embraer 145, least favorite. I flew the Dash 8 and other small airplanes. I flew 737 for a few years, and I used to do the if it's not Boeing, I'm not going. Boeing sucks. And then I flew the Airbus. Wow. It's a really, it's a very automated airplane, very pilot friendly, very spacious, very comfortable airplane. I really, really like the Airbus. My new favorite airplane.
Nice.
Yes.
That's cool. What would you say from your journey now? You're an experienced pilot. You've flown many different aircraft and, been around the world and done different things. What has been the biggest challenges along the way? Is there anything?
A lot of challenges.
Yeah.
I was a single mom when halfway through my journey, and as I mentioned before, a lot of barriers, a lot of obstacles. But once you achieve, the first obstacle, you reach that hump, you make it. Private pilot's obviously the hardest one because you don't know what to expect. And once you get on that, into the rhythm of what to expect, you go in for your check ride. I think that it's just getting through and just, making the time, sticking to your goals. And right now, honestly, I don't know that the challenges are the way they used to be.
Yeah.
Because it's just such a great industry, it's such a great opportunity to get into right now.
Agreed.
But I think the greatest obstacle was just being away from home, having children at home, being a mom, just balancing everything. But it's doable. We set goals, we prioritize, and we just make it work, and it's so worth it. So a lot of challenges still, and my advice would be never, ever quit learning. Because I do a check ride every 6 months, and we're constantly studying, we're constantly going and having to retrain, learn different things. So you just never, ever stop learning, never become complacent, because this is a humbling career.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
That's awesome. Being a lifelong learner.
Absolutely.
Wow.
I agree.
Cool.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Amazing to have you on board.
Thank you. Look forward to speaking to you in the near future.
Likewise.
Thanks.
Pilot Talk with Stein Mjotvid and Michelle Treskin.
Okay, that's a wrap for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to follow the Pilot Talk podcast on Instagram for behind-the-scenes material and for footage and video from the Women in Aviation Conference, of course. You can also send us, as always, your feedback, ideas, your questions. We'll have competitions from time to time where we give away free stuff. And we really hope you enjoyed tagging along for the Women in Aviation Conference. It was such an enjoyable event. What do you say, Michelle?
It was very special. I've done those so many times, and this is one was really special.
Yeah.
Big one.
Very well-run event. And don't forget, as always, you can find our podcast on Spotify, iTunes, Podbean, pretty much anywhere where podcasts can be found. And you can tune in your browser at osmaviation.com/podcast.
So, on that note, my friend, as always a pleasure to be next to you.
Likewise.
And I want to wish you all the very best and blue skies.
And happy landings.
God bless you. Thanks.
Ciao.
Ciao.